Hello, Baltics. How are you over here in Baltic land? I'm Pete Jenner, and I've been in the music business in the UK since 1966, so that makes me very old. You're right, I am very old. And it's a pleasure to be here. I always like coming to Riga. I came here for, what was it called? Riga Forum? Forum Riga? No. Yeah, was it Forum Riga? Yes, years ago. There was some festivals here. I came here many years ago. And I go occasionally to Lithuania and occasionally to Tallinn. So hello to all you Baltic people. I always like it here. You're very kind to me. And it's a nice place.
Okay, Peter. Tell me, please, what do you think about, if we can talk and call it like a Baltic music scene?
I think the Baltic music scene, I think, is going to be quite interesting. And I find it interesting because there's the very high levels of musical skills, which is traditional here, based on the, dare I say it, the old Soviet traditions of sort of music education, where technical proficiency was important and original ideas were unimportant. In fact, original ideas were dangerous and we didn't like original ideas. So post the, whatever it is, the walls came down and after it all changed and you became independent. I think then the interesting thing was that the sort of creativity was allowed to come out. The young people were allowed to have their own ideas and their own thoughts. And it was based on a sort of musical experience, which was very much a classical music experience, I think, and folk and choirs and things like this. And so there's a different sort of cultural background for the young people here, the sort of 20, 30-year-olds compared with in the West, where it was very much based on the blues tradition and rock and roll and so on. So there's a sort of different character in the music, I think, at its best, which involves very high levels of musical competence, but a desire to express themselves with a different vocabulary. So that's why I find there's something very interesting about what happens in the Baltic music thing, and I think you should hold on to that you should be looking to find your own experiences and your own way of expressing your feelings and your views of life, which comes from your own history, rather than trying to pretend to be American or pretend to be British or, be Baltic and be proud.
Okay. An important question for all the bands are how to find the right manager and what should manager do for a band and what's the manager's role in a band's life. Maybe you can tell in few sentences something about the management here, because management in Latvia and in Baltics in general is pretty new and there are not a lot of ways how to educate ourselves in management. So maybe you can just help us with little tips, what managers should do, how they should learn, how they should work with bands, what bands should expect from the manager.
I think that's a very difficult question. In the US and to some extent in the UK, where we have very substantial and large music population, you can have different sectors. You can have people who promote music, people who are agents, people who are record companies, people who are publishers. And these are all different sectors. I think when you come to the Baltic region, you're dealing with much smaller countries. And so I think a manager is almost certainly someone who is also doing other things as well. And there I think the big problem is how to, as it were, to separate the various roles that you have. On the one hand, you're looking after the artist's career and advising them and leading them. And on the other hand, you're a record company as well, or you're a music publisher. And what's a good business for the record company and what's good for the artist may not be the same. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge for managers, is to try and remember, that they have to have various different hats. Today I'm a manager. Yesterday I was a record company. The day before I was an agent and a booker. So, I think you have to try and remember that there's conflicts within those different roles. And that's probably the most important thing. And that as a manager, your most important duty is to look after the career and the welfare and the economy of the artist. And you have to try and say, right, as the manager, this is what's good. It may not be what's good for me as a publisher or me as a record company, but this is what I should do for the artist. And try and remember that that's the first obligation as a manager.
Okay, where to educate yourself as a manager, or where to educate yourself in the music business, except maybe university when there's maybe some lectures about music business. So maybe you can advise somewhere where to look up to these tips.
Well, I think that you can read books, you can talk to people, you can go to conferences, but also there are now, you can go to colleges which talk about music management, and I would particularly say that where I teach part-time is in Kristiansand in Norway. And the universities in Norway are free for anyone, so that you can go there and it doesn't cost you. And there's some very good programs there. And in Kristiansand, the University of Agder, they certainly have a good MA program. So you have to have a first degree as a musician or as whatever. And then as a second degree, you can learn about music management and develop there. And maybe that's the most useful thing you can do, you know. The other thing which I think is really important is you have to have languages. You know, it's no good speaking Latvian as you go around the world. There aren't a lot of people speaking Latvian for you, so you've got to speak, probably English is the most useful language, and where you are, perhaps the second useful language is Russian or German, you know. But you have a challenge there, so get your English good and perhaps look for a postgraduate sort of diploma or courses. There are courses in England, but they're expensive. Norway is free. There's a lot to be said for that. And in Norway, you can also work when you're there, and they have jobs there, which is not, you can't say that for many places. So check it out.